All right, this one we're gonna watch all the way through. So, why almost every anime remake is terrible.
Kid, I always wished Pokemon was real. To the point where I somehow had a lucid dream that Beautifly was hovering over my bed in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I got scared and ran to my parents' room. Now, do you know what happened there? Karma. For wishing Pokemon was real. Because in actuality, Pokemon would look terrifying. You don't want to see Mr. Mime's eyeball veins. Why was that necessary, first of all? Or Lickitungue's flesh and saliva.
Please don't.
You know what? I liked this version better. It feels like making everything live action is like the natural next step for an animated property. And they continuously prove again and again, whoever the suits at the time, I don't know who, they think cartoons are nothing to take seriously. Plus, I like money. So, live action it is. Obviously, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. Things don't have to be live action to be creatively different or explore a new medium. That's not the only option out there. Pokemon Concierge, made entirely out of stop motion, looks so cool. This animator made Pokemon look really cool, with using that semi-realistic look that didn't make the Pokemon look disgusting and terrifying, because it doesn't need to look realistic, because realistic doesn't equal
Did anybody ever see the Pokemon remake? I did not see it.
better. And today we'll not only complain about adaptations like every other human being on Earth has already done, but actually go in and analyze the question I would annoy everyone with when I was a kid, and the doctor told my parents that I might be autistic, and they said that's not real, so then they never told until me. My sister revealed it to me not that long ago, and now a whole lot of things make a whole lot more sense, and I'm only finding out like kind of recently, and so are you. So we're gonna ask, why?
実写化することでラビベルのチャンネルをもっとよくできると思ったの。
This is so
みん
cute.
ながあのバカな女がビベルを好きにならないことを祈るわ。だって私はここにいるから。このバカ女の動画をもっと良くするためにもう一度出演すべきかどうか下のコメント欄で教えてください。バイバイ。
Yu Yu Hakusho is a beloved 90s anime. And by the way, you don't have to have watched these animes I'll be talking about because
So
I'll be
good.
explaining enough. I won't bore people who already saw the show also. We're gonna, just watch. It follows Yusuke, who is obviously a middle schooler, as if there was any other option for a protagonist in the 90s for anime, who suddenly gets hit by a car and dies while trying to save a kid. At first, he thinks everyone's probably glad that he's dead. After all, he was always a troublemaker who would skip class and get into fights. After seeing obviously that people care about him at his wake and meeting Botan.
I slept on Yu Yu Hakusho for so long. I saw it for the first time like I think like 6 years ago. I saw it for the first time. I think I would put it in my top 5. It's really, really good. Certain things just don't translate to live action. They would look too ridiculous. No, I agree.
The silliest Grim Reaper you will ever see, and the Prince of the Spirit World, Koenma, who is actually a baby with a pacifier, he gets a second chance at life because Koenma sees something in him, and Yusuke starts working as the new spirit detective, fighting and catching demons that have slipped through the cracks into the human world. The show, on the surface, would want you to believe that this show is about fighting and action, and there is a lot of it. But honestly, it's a show that's heavy on exploring these intricate relationships and how they evolve as Yusuke grows into himself. Like with Genkai, a respected authority figure who's also snarky and stubborn just like Yusuke. With Toguro, one of Yusuke's main adversaries in the show, who is so fucking...
This arc was so good. I love this arc. This arc was so good.
Cool looking. On the surface, this is his big fighting rival, but actually has a really cool and interesting backstory and a unique relationship with Yusuke that it isn't quite spelled out for us. And of course, his friendship with Kuwabara, his rival, become best friends who motivate each other to get stronger and stronger. There's also Kurama and Hiei, who have their own interesting backstories that get revealed piece by piece.
If you know anything about me, I had the biggest crush on EA. I always like the actual characters. EA, Vegeta, list goes on.
To us throughout the show. With all the adaptations we'll be dissecting today, there's this really big commonality I thought of between watching all of them over the years and rewatching for this video. You literally cannot make a direct remake without expecting it to be relentlessly dissected and compared to the original, which is obvious, but my point is you now have a choice of what you're going to make different about the remake and what the point of making it even is. Who is this for? That question dictates everything and is also a question I had constantly throughout watching all of these. Is it for people who are already enchanted by the original source material? Is it for people who aren't familiar with the property to watch the show for the first time? Is it supposed to replace the original, or is it supposed to enchant you into the world and make you go check out the anime later? Another recurring
I want to comment on that. So my dad, I'm not going to say he's like super into anime. Like he knows what Dragon Ball Z is, you know. Who doesn't know what Dragon Ball Z is? But he his introduction to Death Note was the live action. And usually when he sees me, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm watching this movie, I'm watching this show or whatever." He's like, "Have you seen Death Note?" I was like, "The anime?" He's like, "No, no, the movie that's on Netflix." I was like, "No." I was like, "Ew, no." And my sister, like my sister and my brother, we all like watch anime together. And my sister was like, "Ew," you know, she was like, "I tried to tell him to watch the actual anime." And I told him, I was like, "Watch the anime, please." He's like, "Nah." He's like, "I like the one on Netflix." Well, it wasn't a movie, it was like a series. And I was trying to get him right. I was like, "You should watch just the anime, I promise you. It's really good." And he's just like, nah, I like it. It's really good. I think you should check it out. The last season was okay. I feel like there was like a lot of gaps, and there was like some things that I as a viewer didn't get answers to.
whoever's responsible seem to love to suck the life out of the show, from completely butchering the characters' personalities to the charm and wonder of the world to completely missing the point of the show. Also, just by like absolute
Oh, but I will say, don't shoot me. I will say this. The live action Death Note, specifically the Japanese versions, Chef's Kiss. Those were really good. American? No.
absolute coincidence. So many of the remakes we'll be talking about today are Netflix originals that definitely they don't have a reputation of this. They have gotten better, but we'll start our journey here. The vibe here is that Yusuke doesn't care about anything, and his face is so monotonous when in the original he's expressive and angry. In this, he's stoic, looks 30, which doesn't work with the retelling of the same story. He's supposed to be temperamental and very snarky while having a strong moral compass.
Get out here, Hiei! I'm gonna kick your ass!
His first fight with Kuwabara, they don't show until the last final blows, which is like 2 seconds of screen time. But since he's so stoic and doesn't really move around a lot, I'm confused in how he fights, and I'm confused about the character with what seems like two meshing qualities. So he dies, and then there's a cut to explaining the demon world and the human world separation, which is something you're supposed to discover with the main character. Plus, he just like knows he's dead
俺は幽霊になっちまったのか。Huh?
instead of free.
No, it was not like that at all. Yeah, I was just about to say, in the anime, he was freaking out. He was like, "What? I'm a ghost?" Like, I don't like this already. Why are they changing?
Freaking out in the original like a normal person would. Like, does he actually care about anything? Because in the original, you're supposed to make it believe like he doesn't really care, but he does care. You can see that he cares. He's passionate. The weird decision to make Yusuke extremely stoic only leaves us with a really underwhelming and unremarkable protagonist. It feels like they watched one episode and didn't really understand the point of the character and made him very one-dimensional. It's to the point where he seems so uninterested in Keiko, his main love interest, and not like he's picking on her because he likes her like in the original. There are really subtle things that are always missed in the characters. He should be running up against the glass at the hospital where he sees the kid who he saved. He should be flailing his arms at Kuwabara during their confrontation and getting up in his face and yelling. Him on the boat reacting to getting to meet Koenma. He should be leaning back and smirking and crossing his arms, not leaning back in wonder. I'm not saying this because different equals bad. I'm saying this because changing the character's personality in what seems like a subtle way fundamentally changes the goal of the character and the show in a way that is also entirely uninteresting. They're not changing the character out of purpose, but out of misunderstanding what this character actually is. Everyone's boring. Koenma's boring, Yusuke's boring, Botan's boring, Kuwabara's boring, Keiko's boring, and Botan, who is a blue-haired, pronoun-having, silly girl as the Grim Reaper, is supposed to be part of the comedy of the show. This is just totally ignored in the remake because it's super serious.
I believe in your culture they also call me the Grim Reaper.
Pretty girl like you? Please, you're no Grim Reaper.
Well, I'm not sure if I should take that as a compliment or an insult.
At that point, they could have made Botan anyone. Might as well have made her Neo from Men in Black. It would have made more sense. Koenma, who is second in command in the spirit world, he's essentially the Jesus Christ of this universe. And he's literally a baby with a pacifier, and Yusuke laughs at him when they meet. But they made him act super serious.
By context, directors try and mold source materials into their own creation. Good directors do this well, but bad ones will absolutely crap on the source material and change the story entirely different and wrong. They did it with the new Star Wars and anime adaptations. They just try and make it to what they want and ignore the fans. But I'm like, is that not how you lose out on money? Because I'm like, if you're ignoring the fans, we're more than likely not going to see it. There are so many awful anime adaptations that whenever a new one comes out, I don't watch it. I don't go out my way to be like, oh my God, I can't wait till this comes out. I ignore it because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be. And I don't even watch One Piece. But I heard, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard like that adaptation was pretty okay.
May I ask what the point of the pacifier is? They just never mention it. They never mention it. How?
Eh?
Obviously, since this is a 5-episode remake of a 200-episode anime that wasn't filled with filler, they're going to leave a lot out and rearrange important moments of the show, which isn't necessarily bad, but will always follow up with, you're remaking this show with what purpose in mind? I'll bring it up later how the One Piece live action actually does this really well, I think. But here, is it to retell the same story that was told better in the original source material? Like, artistically, what is the point of remaking the source material but leaving the important moments and nuances out? Like, besides money, doing this only makes the end result of the fights and the meat of the show feel all the less deserving and underwhelming. It also makes it a really confusing watch for people who haven't seen the original show. Why the pacifier? Why the fuck do we care about this guy? If she wasn't in the show, literally nothing would change. These guys are brothers? When was I supposed to know that? So again, who is this for? They constantly reveal things before we're supposed to discover them, which also contributes to having no payoff for anything. They just randomly showed us EA's third eye, so there's no point in this bandana now because we're supposed to discover it with Yusuke in battle. Genkai is supposed to be a super powerful fighter that trains Yusuke, and Yusuke's supposed to laugh at her for being an old woman. And then she beats his ass and is very satisfying to watch, as Yusuke learns throughout the show.
We're not going to stop this until you don't move an inch. Now get up!
They're supposed to learn how to respect each other because they're both kind of assholes to each other. So she sees herself in him, while he proves to her throughout the show that he's a worthy heir to her immense power. In this remake, she just gives up her greatest power to him after he shows the tiniest bit of determination for actually 10 seconds. And they just don't connect as characters at all. I'm back with a different.
No way. In the anime, she was dragging his ass. She made him work.
Sweater because I had lunch in between these takes and I got guacamole all over my sleeves. So it feels like remakes have a curse of turning a really fun property into something overly serious and lifeless for no reason, as if it has to be that way. Like the whole trend of movie colors, like in general, just looking so much more dull than they used to. It's like that's the trend, but like it doesn't have to be that way. Why? For example, in the original, there was this whole ordeal of trying to get Yusuke back into his original body that was nearly a miss. He barely makes it, and the episode is a lot of fun.
Keiko!
They ended up oversimplifying everything so much that they lost all of the nuances that tell you a lot about the characters. He just gets his body back so he can fight this guy. So when Yusuke, alive, reveals himself to Keiko and his mom again, I do really like this line that he says.
俺はお前の悪口ぐらいじゃ死なねえんだ。
But like the fun part is that in the original, Keiko gets to be
Okay.
a part of bringing Yusuke back, which lets us learn about
I was about to say that was a very Yusuke line to say.
her relationship with Yusuke, and her learning about the supernatural. But here it's like, oh no, they sad. Oh yay, they happy. Another example I like paying attention to is how these adaptations use the music. I know, what a big surprise. The music bitch is talking about music again. Honestly, in the remake of Cowboy Bebop, I really think they understood this aspect. We'll talk more about that show in a bit. But in Yu Yu, the music is pretty generic YouTube no copyright, royalty free action movie music.
Oh hell nah.
When the soundtrack of the original was really colorful and had instrumental cohesion. I just made that sound really fancy for no reason, but you get the idea. There's like motifs in the soundtrack, whether that be melodically or instrumentally.
Hey! Where are you gonna take us?
To the spirit world.
To the what?
Anyway, it's like the only
Yo, she makes a really good point. I feel like Yu Yu Hakusho was it really is a masterpiece in my opinion. It's really really good, but I didn't even notice that. It's a really good point. Yeah, not the royalty music that they were using on. I'm glad I skipped out on it. I'm so glad I didn't watch it.
only way to make a remake is if it's colorless and dull and super serious, which I think that's why people liked the One Piece remake so much, especially compared to all the other ones, because they undid those expectations of a super serious show. In Yu Yu, it's like we're supposed to know how much these characters mean to each other without them actually showing us. That being said, the action is definitely the best part of the show, but most of the screen time is spent fighting instead of making us understand why we care about the fighting in the first place. So despite all I said, I didn't completely hate the remake, but I wish they made the show a bit funnier and leaned into it. It feels like they half committed to the comedy and just didn't commit at all to the music. Even though there were a couple bangers in there was no musical cohesion whatsoever. But you know what's worse than a disappointing adaptation? Having your personal information being collected and sold without your permission. While we've been discussing and complaining, if you will, data brokers have been quietly gathering your name, mine, address, mine, and other sensitive
Alrighty,
details, trading them
let's
like
skip
Pokemon
this
cards and
good
putting
old
you at
ad.
risk for identity theft. After Yu Yu, I decided I needed a
Oh god. Oh god. Oh my god. I feel like we all collectively hate this one, right? We all collectively hate Dragon Ball Evolution. Yeah.
palate cleanser and decided to watch Dragon Ball Evolutions, obviously based on the Dragon Ball anime from the 90s. This movie, famous for this clip, was the world's first introduction to a live-action Dragon Ball in 2009, TE, Twilight Era, between the first and second movie, of course.
Doing good.
Granted, there was no possible way to get Goku's hair right in real life. They just settled for Backstreet Boys. That'll do. I mean, nothing is right in this movie. It's not like I'm gonna have anything groundbreaking to say about it, but I just wanted to include it because it's so funny. I had never seen it before until I watched it for this video. The plot is that Piccolo Sr. wants the Dragon Balls, but I don't know.
Nah, I want to make a video on this movie. I don't think I even watched all of this. I think I probably watched maybe a couple minutes of it, and that was it. I want to sit down and watch this entire movie just for shits and giggles. Because what the fuck was that?
Know why. I don't know why. Goku doesn't have a tail. Minus points for that. I don't care that he's a modern day 2009 layered t-shirt ass kid going to some California skater punk high school. He should have a tail. He's also more interested in just learning about girls the whole movie. Very Goku of him, I know. People who've seen the original Woo, Goku just he loves girls. He's always talking about and being interested in girls. They not only make every female character in this movie have the biggest push-up bra that 2009 could invent. They were working overtime, dude. The girls would be tired after being in that push-up bra all day. But they also, like, forced sexual tension between these characters and Goku.
What happens after I light all 5 torches?
Then you'll be standing right next to me.
But they also, like, force sexual tension between Goku and every Big Bazonga's character. Even with Bulma, who is solely a companion. It wouldn't even make sense to make comparisons to the original because they have nothing in common. It felt like they made the movie but refused to learn anything about the actual property. So if you do try to be faithful to the original, people aren't gonna like that if you butcher it or leave important stuff out. But on the other hand, if you try something new, it ends up as Dragon Ball Evolutions. Is there possibly an in-between? It genuinely feels like Power Rangers, but in a bad way. We also somehow
the
go from like
hell?
this California high school to like a post-apocalyptic city and also a giant desert. Damn, Dune 3 looks crazy.
Dragon!
We end the movie on top of this mountain, and instead of wishing for his grandpa back from the dead, he wishes for Master Roshi to come back, who I swear looks like George Lopez. I know they're not even the same race, but I swear to God, I just kept thinking it, especially in this outfit.
Chi-Chi was fine in this movie. I forgot her name. Wasn't it is her name like Alexa Chung or something like that? I've seen her before.
Really funny this movie is. I feel like adaptations always mix up arcs and moments of a show and do things out of order without considering why those arcs and moments happened when they happened in the first place. It's basically just for us to go like, I remember when that happened in the show. The relationships are obviously so rushed because you're trying to fit 200 episodes worth
Jamie. So it was Jamie Chung? Okay. Damn. I was off. But Jamie Chung.
of story into a shortened show or movie, which is again like, what is the purpose of this adaptation? Unfortunately, even if the live action is good, a lot of people are gonna come into it wanting to hate it, and are also just going to hate it because it's not the original. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. In the case of Cowboy Bebop and its remake, I can definitely see why people didn't like it. But this got me wondering then, can any remake or retelling of the same story ever be good then? Yes, they can, I think. Full Metal Alchemist got an animated remake called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood that the community largely says is a better retelling of at least the manga. But a lot of people like both. Some of the Death Note live actions aren't bad. There's more than the 2017 Netflix live action.
What you call me?
Called you stupid fuck? Fuck.
I was literally talking about this. Was I not just talking about this? How the Japanese live actions were incredible, but this just belongs in the garbage.
I even remember liking the 2015 Death Note TV drama while enjoying the creative liberties they took in parts
this one right here. Oh my god.
that weren't exactly one-to-one with the original. Because I don't dislike adaptations just because they're different. The problem is that if they don't hold up on their own and rely on you.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it was like slightly different from the anime, but it was still like good though.
Having seen the original, then what was the point? Cowboy Bebop is a beloved anime that ran from 1998 to 99 that follows a couple of ragtag bounty hunters in space struggling to make ends meet with an iconic sound.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, it's jam.
This is Spike. This is Jet, and we also meet Faye Valentine, Ein, and Ed. The show is largely episodic, but still progresses in the background. You don't learn a lot about these characters. You're never directly told a lot about these characters. The show is largely about inferring things about them. This is a character-driven show that remains extremely ambiguous. And if you're a fan of the show, you know that the ambiguity is one of the really special things about it, and is a big reason people are drawn to it. It's a very melancholic show, which means when adapting it for Western audiences, we need to make this show as black and white as possible. Gray? What the fuck is that? Fuck you. Jet's a divorced dad who needs money to buy his daughter a doll and visit the suburbs to dispute relationship problems. Spike has a past he's trying to hide from Jet. And there's a main bad guy. Also, the main villain in the original is someone we don't know a lot about or know exactly what happened between him and Spike. Vicious is his name. And we only see him vaguely in memories and only in like the last couple episodes of the show. He's supposed to be that way. In the remake, they made him like Spike's direct rival who stole his girl and has this like man-child arc. He loses all mystique. This is Vicious. You don't know a lot about him, but he's scary. In the remake, he's essentially Lord Farquaad, in both appearance and personality. Before we get too into it though, I do want to say, visually, it looks great. The sets and the outfits too didn't feel unnatural or jarring in the world like you did. I like John Cho as an actor. I think Spike was a really difficult cast, and I was happy to see him in more stuff. I like him. They actually got him to mostly feel like Spike with the way he walks and fights. I really like that they leaned into some of the humor and the kookiness in the fights, which was a really enjoyable watch. I also really enjoy the music. They stuck with the vibe of the show, which has some of the most iconic music in anime history. So I'm really glad that they also seemed to understand the important role of music.
I was saying, has anybody seen the Cowboy Bebop live action? I have not seen it, but from what I'm looking at, like, they got the characters right, they got the wardrobe right, they got the music, the setting, they got all of that right. Are people still like hating on it? What is one anime that if someone said it was trash would piss you off, Ash? In fact, chat, join in. My fave is Death Note, so that's my fave. I don't care who calls it trash. I won't believe you. It's amazing.
It wouldn't have been a surprise if Netflix just like nixed the entire soundtrack. That's why I'm saying it. Unfortunately though, they kind of missed the point of the show, which seems to be a common trope for live action remakes. They kind of ended up framing it as like this buddy cop show when the original explores more complicated situations when they're out bounty hunting. Nothing about the original was so black and white like it is in the remake. And I feel like that really costed them why people liked the show in the first place. This is such a huge thing that adaptations keep missing. For example, our main characters in the anime were left wondering who in this universe is actually good and bad. Their motivations for bounty hunting aren't because they're heroes with high honor. They're morally gray individuals that need money, where they meet a variety of characters that aren't what they seem, and some that are complex people in bad situations. It's what happens when you push people to the edges of society. This Faye Valentine is a tragic femme fatale.
戦いの基本を知ってる？先制攻撃よ。
This Faye Valentine has a poster on her wall that says keep calm and carry on, and acts like a bratty 15-year-old.
Yeah, you can kindly fuck off.
Actually, when this came out in 2021, I gave it a shot and I just couldn't watch past the first episode because I just couldn't handle what they did to Faye.
Meet Faye.
I was about to say, I don't think Faye was just like, I just remember Faye just being like super sexy. Like, who? I don't know what that was.
Valentine.
Hey, fuck you. Huh? I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. We got in the wrong place.
This Jet Black is an ex-cop who wakes up every day knowing he can't control the world around him, but wants to try and do good. He's someone who looks back fondly on times, but knows they're gone.
I mean, you didn't remember wrong. I mean, how could you forget? How could you forget? Look, I mean, the way she was dressed, she was always just like very like sexy. Her tits were always out. She was the baddie. Hey, I remember that.
Him difficult to explain because he's so complex and real. This Jet Black is a stereotypical ex-cop divorced dad who could only talk about getting a doll for his daughter an entire episode that are an hour long.
Come on.
My daughter's turning 8, and I can't afford to buy her a present because of you. I can afford a goddamn walking Sally doll. You got the doll?
This, and with the ongoing Spike and Vicious rivalry, this is what I mean about it feeling so black and white. It kind of ends up feeling like a buddy cop show. For side character episode arcs, they changed this character who was just trying to find a better life on Mars, but had never been there. Kind of this tragic false hope story, yearning for a better life somewhere you've never seen, and also just in a terrible circumstance in the first place.
Planning to escape to Mars, huh? Go ahead and run. How far do you think you'll get?
And instead, they made her some runaway daughter of some rich guy dating a psycho.
Everyone knows your dad. Rich, powerful, total dick. Get over it and move.
There's really not much mystery or complexity in feeling bad for these characters.
Ever been to Mars?
I was born on Mars.
I hear they have everything there. Not like here. It must be a great place to live.
Sure, if you're rich.
Have you ever been to Mars?
I was born there.
I haven't been since I was a little girl, but I remember it was beautiful, you know, a good place to start a new life.
It's never too late to start a new life.
Which is really interesting because Netflix had an hour of runtime to explain this arc and did it so much more poorly than the 20-minute anime. It's just disappointing that they changed certain things that didn't need to be changed. The story you chose to tell was already written for you in the original episode, and it didn't feel like these changes added any new perspective or had a real purpose. Something all these adaptations miss is the point of the show they're making the show almost end up like a parody of what they think people liked about the original. Yu Yu Hakusho, everyone only likes that show for the action. It's like they misunderstood the show and made a caricature of generic action animes. Cowboy Bebop, people liked it for the vibes and like fighting bad guys, right guys? It's like when they translate stuff for Western audiences, they think they need a clear good guy and a clear bad guy, or else people won't get it. But the people who already like Bebop like that about the show. It's like they're trying to remake it for general audiences to get into the anime, but it's just a confusing who is this for? I understand why they would want to flesh out Vicious as a villain, but I think it comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the show. Death Note's live action.
All
But to me,
right.
this very much falls under the same tier as Dragon Ball Evolutions.
Weep Central.
I guess in short, Light finds book called Death Note. You write name in book, that person dies 40 seconds later by a heart attack unless otherwise specified. The show's a noir detective-inspired mystery psychological thriller. Something that would be a slam dunk out of every anime to adapt. This one would be very doable. But it's just so bad. It also has nothing in common with the original besides Ryuk, the god of death that follows around.
Oh, you said that's the name of the website, Weeb Central? Oh, I thought you were calling us like weebs. I was about to say, well, yeah.
Around the person who has the Death Note. Light and L, who is the detective that's trying to catch him, are supposed to be some of the smartest people on Earth, constantly trying to outsmart each other and play mind games. In this movie, they make them both be the dumbest pieces of shit. Light and L are supposed to be chronic overthinkers. Here, they're just chronically stupid, and it all comes down to that.
You're the one who flew into the sun. I'm just here to make sure you actually burn.
I would just watch this video on it, to be honest. Like, genuinely, everything is wrong with this movie. Characters, plot, writing, like, I don't even know where to begin or end. I'd just recommend to explore the Japanese live actions of Death Note, if you can find them anywhere on the internet, that is. There's a few movies from 2006 to 2008 that I've seen, and there's a 2015 live-action TV drama, and in these, they're much more faithful to the original characters while taking creative liberties where they see fit, that for the most part, work. At least way better than the 2017 Netflix adaptation. Hey, don't touch her! And didn't just like go out of their way to piss people off.
Look, anytime we bring up Death Note, I will always try and take the opportunity to show y'all my Death Note tattoo every time. Let me see if I can lift my leg. Wait, hold on. There you go. The little L.
But I haven't watched all of it.
Hold on. So they're trying to find the One Piece, but it's taken over. When did this show come out? It's definitely been over 20 years though, right? So it's been like over 20 years. Leave it alone. All right, Fresh. I'll leave it alone. It's been over 20 years though. They still can't find this One Piece. I don't know. 1997? Yeah, that's a while. We in 2025. This story better be damn good.
Because I value my time and I'm not a nerd. Okay? You came to this video thinking I was a nerd. You're wrong. We have Luffy, Nami, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji in season.
Hey, okay, I may not know much about One Piece, but we are Zoro stans and Ace stans over here. Okay. They got the looks right.
One of the live action. I love the casting for all these characters, but especially Zoro and Luffy. I couldn't have imagined a better Luffy, okay? I love this guy. The energy Iñaki brings to the table is so perfect for Luffy. I can't really put into words why, but sometimes it's about the vibe, and the vibe is correct. I also think the things the live action did differently than the anime actually worked really well for a cathartic release that didn't feel unnatural to anyone's character. When Nami's trying to rip out her tattoo, that's this big emotional moment. Luffy finds her and stops her, resulting in Nami at the end of her rope emotionally asking for Luffy to.
Would y'all hate me if I watched the live action instead of watching the anime? Because I'm not even gonna hold you. The live action, it does look good. He does give like that same vibe as Luffy. Again, I don't know much about One Piece, but I do know that Luffy's like this kind of like childlike, happy, innocent type of guy. And I don't know, he definitely gives like that vibe. Yes? No? Cause you did the same? Okay, cause like what if I watch the live action and then I'm like, now I want to watch the anime. It works better animated. It wasn't bad. I could see it. Y'all telling me mixed things.
Help her. This scene happens in the same way in the original, but in the remake it still has the same deservingness and hits emotionally the way it should. It feels earned like in the original. Plus the actors did a phenomenal job in this scene. Even though fundamentally, they changed things surrounding Nami's arc in the remake. Like how the village she's from in the anime, the townspeople pretend to hate her so she'll stop working to try and save them, but they care about her a lot. In the remake, they actually just made the village hate her, and sure, this took away some of the emotional depth of the village and the villagers, but to me, the end result still worked really well, and was still just as gut-wrenching knowing Nami didn't want to betray them. I still think this works for different reasons, as they definitely had to, again, change some things around in order for the story to work with pacing and time. They did a great job of letting the characters stay in character, while adding new perspectives to this scene. What I'm trying to prove is that different doesn't equal bad. I know I've drilled that into your heads already. And that adapting a very beloved franchise can be so tough and touchy, but it can be done. And by Netflix.
Oh, the live action? Yeah, it looks good. No, y'all, I might have to check out the live action.
Of all things. I told you we were close with Cowboy Bebop. And to be optimistic here, Netflix adaptations so far have gone from absolutely atrocious
Fuck it, forget.
I actually do cuss a little.
to something that a lot of the fan base actually really likes. This One Piece remake is also a show that absolutely stands on its own. You don't need to have watched One Piece to understand what's going on. I know there's a ton of people out there who were introduced to One Piece from the remake, and the purpose of this also serves to not have to watch 1,000 episodes of One Piece to prove your loyalty to the One Piece overlords. So, who is this for? It's for fans and newcomers, telling the same story with some creative liberties that fundamentally don't change the original property to the point beyond recognition, especially if part of the intent was to make someone a One Piece fan and go check out the anime. If you go check it out and it's nothing like the live action in a way that you wouldn't like one or the other, I just don't really see the point. I could be narrow-minded here though. I know there are a lot of adaptations I didn't cover in this video, so instead of getting angry and screaming at me, you should subscribe to force me to make more videos. Oh no, please don't subscribe. I would hate that. It would be so terrible to make another video about something that mildly bothers me when I think about it for too long. Bye.
This was a good video. Hey, she did a really good job.